Hey, everybody. Thank you for showing up and welcome to Financial Fridays, our Q&A and tip of the day. Today, our Q&A is all about college as an investment. And this topic kind of comes out of a question that we get asked frequently, which is, why didn't anybody tell me what I needed to know before I spent my money? So over the past 6 or 7 months, we've spent a lot of time sort of delving into, well, exactly what is it that you should know before you invest your money in college. And what we've figured out about that is sort of interesting and different than what we thought going into it. Largely, the idea of college comes out as an investment, comes out of a single study. And that study basically said that if you took $100,000, which is about the lowest cost college education that you could get, if you took $100,000 and invested it at 18, that college would still outperform it. So pretty much everybody took that one study and they used that as the basis for saying everybody should go to college and that college is a good investment for everybody. And what we found out over the last few months is that that's not necessarily true, or that it can be less true depending on some of the choices that you make. So today, what we want to do is kind of go through some of those choices and a way to kind of look at your options and think about where it is that you want to go. I'll say lastly that over the next few months, we're going to be rolling out some new content assets and some new information on strategies around choosing college and the financial aspects of going to college. So without further ado, let's just get into it. So the first thing that's sort of worth knowing and thinking about is, where do you start? And I think the place that you start is always with the student, and what is the student trying to accomplish? And in the digital age, which is where we are living now, the greatest financial asset that you're ever going to have is your intellect and your interest and your native capabilities. And that's what you're going to use to be able to fund the rest of your life. So that's the most significant asset that you're ever going to have. And then what you need to think about is, if this is my most significant asset, how do I grow it? How do I preserve it? How do I make sure that it earns the income for me that I need to have for the rest of my life? So interestingly enough, the way that we look at that is we separate life into those who go to college versus those who don't. But increasingly, it's becoming tougher and tougher not to go to college. And you'll find yourself kind of excluded from certain job categories if you don't go to college. So once we kind of realized that that's where the train was going, our next job was to kind of say, well, if you have to go to college, how do you make sure that college as an investment works for you? So basically what we want you to think about is, if you're talking about an investment in your intellectual capital, because that's what you're doing here, where does college fit? And in our study, what we've figured out is that colleges sort of sort themselves into three distinct markets. There's the tier one market, which is about 200 colleges that are considered Ivy League or near Ivy League. So, those are your Harvards, your Stanfords, your Northwesterns, the University of Chicago's, those colleges. And there are about 200 of those colleges in the nation, and basically there's sort of an unwritten understanding in the marketplace that those institutions are selling a credential to a student that is well understood in the marketplace, and that there are buyers out there looking for students that hold that credential or hold that degree, because that student represents somebody who they believe they can bring into their business and earn a lot of money off of them. And because of that, those people are also paid a lot of money. The estimate of the number of students that fit into that category who are able to get these highly sought after credentials or degrees is between 2 and 10% of the college market. So you can see that it's a relatively low percentage. The second part of the college market is considered sort of the middle tier. And the middle tier are largely the large land grant colleges that have grown up in the Midwest and in the South and in the West. And they largely grew up in the absence of a private college historical market. So talking about colleges like the University of Texas, the University of Michigan, the Ohio State University, the University of Illinois, the University of California, the University of Arizona, talking about those great big colleges. And as a second tier market, they represent between 10 and 30% of all students in the market. And those schools generally return a pretty good return on investment, just looking at it from the school level. And then after that, there's everybody else. And those are small liberal arts colleges, those are private colleges, those are religious colleges, is everybody else. So in the top third of the market, you're likely to do better choosing one of those schools just from an investment point of view. In the bottom 2/3 of the market, you really do have to do your homework to make sure that the investment that in the institution is going to return what you're hoping for. So a couple of things that we wanted to put out there for you to think about in terms of looking at this as an investment. Basically, college is an investment that you're making that's can be analogized to a house, but it's like a stock that you're buying on the margin. So first, let's talk about the risk of buying it on the margin. That risk is that if you are borrowing to pay for your college education, you are borrowing money today with a promise that based on your earnings in the future, you're going to pay that money back. And that's why I kind of analogize it to buying a stock on the market, on the margin. You can buy a stock, but you don't know how that stock is going to perform. So the stock might do well, and if it does, it will bring you a great return. If the stock doesn't do well, then you lose your money. And the same thing is true if you borrow for college. If you get a good paying job and you're able to pay the loan back, great. But if you don't, then that becomes a problem and the loan becomes an albatross around your neck, and it is a threat to your future assets if the loan is private, and it's a threat to your income if the loan has a federal guarantee. But there are other risks that come along with that. Like you could not finish your degree, and if you don't finish your degree, you have the debt, but you don't have the credentials. So you're not able to get a job that you basically were betting on when you took out the loan. And no matter whether you get the degree or not, you still owe the debt. You might not be able to make the payments because something else goes on in your life. You might have a health crisis or something like that. So just bear in mind that when you're borrowing to pay for college in the future, you're actually betting that a whole bunch of things are going to fall in place, that you're going to get a job, that the job is going to be well paid, that you're going to be able to hold on to that job for a long period of time, that nothing will happen in your life that will upset your trajectory. You won't have a sick child or a sick parent, sick spouse, be sick yourself. And then there are some specific things that people don't look at. Like when you choose a college, there are a couple of metrics that are really important to look at. One is freshman retention rate. You can't graduate if you don't finish your freshman year. So you want to take a look at that freshman retention rate. Now, some of that freshman retention rate is that people change schools. So they don't go back to the school that they started as a freshman, they go someplace else. And some of it is that they drop out. But if you're changing schools, you're increasing the risk of your cost, and you're increasing the risk that you're not going to finish. So that freshman retention rate is something that's really important to take a look at. The second thing to take a look at is the graduation rate. If the graduation rate is 55%, that means that 45% of the students who started at that school did not finish their college degree. And when you look at it and you're an incoming freshman, you are really optimistic about that's not going to be you, but it's going to be somebody. And colleges are famous for telling people to look to the left and look to the right of the person who's sitting next to you at freshman orientation, and to say that that person won't be there at graduation. But remember, you are both to the left and the right of somebody else. So that very well could be you. So one of the other things that you want to think about when you're looking at college as an investment is to ensure that you are picking a college that has a high freshman retention rate, and it also has a high graduation rate. Those metrics are published. They're required to be published as part of federal law, and you should ask about them. All right. So now let's talk about the upside of investing in a college education is sort of like buying a house. You're betting on a couple of things. One is the appreciation. And so basically buying a college degree is a bet that over the time of your degree, you're going to be able to get better jobs and to earn more money. And, it's kind of like buying a house. If you buy a house and the neighborhood gets hot, wow, yeah, you make a lot of money. But you could buy a good house in a neighborhood that underperforms, and that won't work for you. So the same thing happens in careers. So, you just really have to make sure that the college that you're going to turns out graduates in the area that you want to go to school in, and that those graduates actually do well. And there are statistics out there on colleges and what their performances are by major. So those are statistics that you should be looking up before you invest your money in a particular college. So besides appreciation and stability, as most often overlooked in terms of picking a college, is location. So colleges are always located somewhere. And to go to that college, for the most part, you have to go to that community. It will accept out the few people who are doing online education, but you have to go to that community. And the question sort of becomes, if you don't plan on living in that community, how do you make the business connections that are necessary to make in order to be able to find employment? So location becomes really important in terms of picking a college. Pick a college in a town near or where you want to live. So that way, while you're working your way through college and you're doing your internships, that you will be in a community where you're likely to be able to work doing an internship at a place where you might be able to get a job when you finish your degree. Also, there are some resources that are necessary for work that are in the community. Mentors are really important today. And if you make all of your mentors at college, which is 2,000 miles away from where you're going to work, that makes it difficult to carry that mentor from your college life on into your work life. Doesn't mean it can't be done, but it's just harder. The second thing that you need in the work world, in the corporate work world, is a sponsor. And a sponsor is that person who's up above you, who sees you as an up-and-coming worker, and who is willing to lend their credibility to say that that person should be promoted or given another opportunity to prove that they're ready for the next level. So location becomes important, because the closer you go to school to where it is that you want to work, the better opportunity you have to know about what jobs and resources are in that community, and to make those connections while you're still in college so that you get a head start on the world of work. So that's our Financial Friday for today. College as an investment. Just remember, if you are borrowing, you're betting in the future that you're going to be able to pay it back. And there are lots of things that you can do to ensure that you're going to pay them back. But most importantly, it is to make sure that you choose a college that has a good freshman retention rate and a college that has a good graduation rate. Stay tuned to studentloan411.co. Over the next couple of months, you're going to see us putting in a lot more information about this, because what we've decided is that an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure. So we're going to teach you how to pick better so that you won't be worried about your student loans in the future. Thank you for listening. It's been a great Financial Friday. Look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great weekend.